What's going on, guys? It's Adam P and welcome back to more Newcastle United news. Of course, we currently have the international break ongoing, and I'm glad to say our final international break of the season, as of course our players are out representing their national countries as Newcastle looks to get it together after this break, because we know in the last few results, it's not even just the fact we're losing games, it's the way we're losing games as well. We're throwing games away, we're cheap with possession, we're cheap giving goals away, and I think the way Newcastle's been this season, it is concerning when you take the Champions League and when you take the domestic competitions out, because Newcastle's not performing in the league, and we need to do that when we get back. But of course, just before we get into the news, if you guys are new around here, make sure you get down there, hit that subscribe button. 51% of you watching this video are not subscribed, so make sure you get down there and do that so you don't miss out whenever I next upload my video. And that'll be tomorrow, as of course our women's team is taking on Sun, and it'll be the first time I'm actually covering the girls this season. I'll explain a lot more in detail why tomorrow, but of course if you guys want to see that, it'll be out on the channel tomorrow, as it's going to be a huge packed out day at St James's Park. Now, going on top to the men's team, just to briefly mention before we go into international break, of course, Marseille announcement has been made by the club, going into a lot of detail about what fans should and should not do if they are travelling over to Marseille. So make sure to obviously have a look at that if you are making the trip across. I'm going to make a video a bit closer to the time, going into more detail outside of this post, and maybe the history of Marseille, why Marseille is dangerous, and just these sort of things that Newcastle hasn't mentioned that you guys should also probably do on your trip. So when it's a bit closer at the time, I'm going to make a video about that. And of course, as someone who always documents my travel experience, again, I'll have to restructure some of my videos differently when I'm over there. Now, speaking of the international break, going into the big topic straight away, big Nick Woltemade got 2 goals against Luxembourg, both the goals for Germany, and that is now a player that is in red hot form for his national team. Bearing in mind, it was actually the start of this season where German fans, German media were relentless towards him. When I mean relentless, I'll give Bayern Munich an example. You got the actual president of Bayern calling out this guy for being an overpriced player that they didn't want, even though they did want him because they put bids in for him twice. They then decided to actually pay an excessive amount of money to loan Nicholas Jackson to Bayern Munich. Not even buy Nicholas Jackson, just to loan the guy to pay an excessive amount of money. And they were calling Newcastle out for being a club that was overspending on players, and they were calling Newcastle out for being a club that wasn't best suited for this guy. He was just going at loads of detail, bashing into poor Nick, and that was before you even look at the German media and just how relentless they were towards the fact this is a guy that's progressed from the under-21 squad. He's talking a couple of games for the national team, starting up front, and he's getting all this abuse. And Germany's team was bad as well. It's not even just him, the entire team was bad, and he was just getting a lot of pinpointed attention. So to see him now actually get his goal against Ireland, and what was the only goal of the game, Ronaldo, take notes by the way, Nick Woltemade scored the winner against Ireland. He then got 2 goals again yesterday, 2 decisive goals that won Germany the game. Now, you can't ask for anything more. And actually, when you look at the 2 goals as well, both of them, first one was ended up being a through ball across. He's at the back post, shoots first time, goes into the bottom corner. Second one a bit closer, but again, a through ball in behind, and he just finishes a first time shot. And goals that he hasn't really scored at Newcastle. And the big answer for that being is that Newcastle's not provided him with balls like that. You're talking through balls that are perfectly set up for him, and why not being overstretched as well, because he's not a player with an awful amount of pace, even though he is quick for his height. The balls he's getting at Germany are just completely different to the ones he's getting at Newcastle. And I almost look at the way Newcastle's set up, because when you look out wide, for example, with maybe the exception of Murphy, you're talking Gordon, Barnes, Elanga, all of them not doing enough, I would argue, in the Premier League. So why does Newcastle not potentially decide to maybe have 2 up front? I know Gordon's not the best striker out there, but once Wissa gets back, or hell, even Asula gets back, Newcastle maybe could do 2 strikers. I think if you had Nick Woltemade actually being the instigator of making the play, and he's just one that's able to have a second player alongside him, constantly giving him the ball. It's almost like we're almost kind of not playing to his strengths, and it's so obvious because despite how many goals he scored for Newcastle, how little of the ball does he get, and when things don't go well for Newcastle or he doesn't score, he's just not involved with the game. And I would still say it's a tactical problem because it's not his fault. He's a fantastic player, and Newcastle, in hindsight, maybe should have figured out how we were going to work this guy. But just everything surrounding the striker situation. I think Wissa's the big problem to it because of the fact he's still injured. Wissa was supposed to be our number one striker. He would have started up front. Woltemade would have then gradually came in. So you've basically put your number 2 striker in, who was also, you could argue, better as a 10 or better as playing alongside a second striker, and then we haven't got either of those things happening. So Woltemad's then been thrown out of position, and he's got 9 goals in all competitions. You've got to look at the facts. I mean, this guy is actually over-delivering for Newcastle, despite the fact that basically everything surrounding him is going against him because Newcastle is just not playing to this guy. We aren't playing to his best abilities, and I still question somewhat why that is the case, but hopefully we'll just figure this out because he clearly needs help. Let's give this guy some help. He can score goals, he can get us far. And I'm actually also glad as well as seeing him score a brace. It's the first time this season he scored more than 1 goal in a game. And you could argue, if you were going to be a bit negative towards the player, you'd probably argue, can he score more than 1 goal in a game? And that's evidence to suggest that he can. So hopefully when he gets back, we'll figure this out because he is too good not to have playing his best strums. As for Sandro Tonali, he played 90 minutes in a 2-0 win against Moldova. And what is fairly routine win for Italy. Tonali, of course, is still, you would probably say, our best player in terms of ability, in terms of potential, in terms of the unfortunate circumstances. One day, when he does decide to leave, they're getting an insane amount of money for him. You're talking well over £100 million, especially the likes of Declan Rice and Caicedo are going for the regions of between 100 million to 120 million. That was a couple of years ago as well. Tonali's going to be up there once that day comes. But of course, Newcastle has to be able to keep these players here. Newcastle has to be able to persuade these players to stick around. And Newcastle just has to be able to keep a hold of their assets because Newcastle hasn't been able to do that this season. If you can't win an away game, you're not going to keep players like Tonali next to us. But you just need to make sure we do well in the competitions and we need to make sure we get it together in the league. We need European football next season. I can't make a point any clearer. Eddie Howe has a proven track record of getting his team back around, so let's make sure he does that once again. And as for England, of course, our international team certainly going well under Thomas Tuchel, won all 7 of our qualifying games. No Dan Burn, no Anthony Gordon, neither player starting. Now Gordon still a bit of an injury thing going on. Dan Burn, to be honest, as much as I love him as a centre half, he's been honking at left back, and I actually rate Thomas Tuchel for not playing any of them. You know, they don't deserve to play, in my opinion, based on their recent form. And I don't want to be that guy because I might sound like a bit of a knob saying that, but I like the fact that Thomas Tuchel, in terms of other teams as well, he's actually picking players based on form. He's not picking players based on their pedigree. He's not actually going out there and just playing your biggest names. He's actually diverting the team and he's actually changing the team based on how they do on the pitch for their clubs, which is exactly my mentality. It's exactly what I personally believe we should be doing at our national team. Players deserve to play based on their form and based on how good they've been, rather than the fact that they've been good previously. And I think Gareth Southgate, I'm telling you now, would be starting Dan Burn, despite how he's been doing in the league, which I would wholeheartedly disagree with. So, Tuchel, fair enough, without mentioning much more about the national team, but I actually rate it quite a lot. I think he's done exactly what he should be doing as our manager. But in terms of Newcastle United news, there's not an awful lot more to get into in this video. I just want to go through the international games and just go through what players are performing, what players haven't got the chance to play, and just to go through some brief news that I came about today. And of course, once we do get back, it is going to be non-stop. We still have a couple of Champions League away matches to get through before we even consider the Sunderland game. Well, mention it all. It's been a bit of a nightmare for me in the background trying to sort some of these tickets out, and in the end, 4 loyalty points off, did not get the Derby ticket. Oh, it is infuriating, but yes, we will be out in Newcastle, of course. Surely the vibe, surely the fan atmosphere, and just getting through it all. And what is going to be a crucial game for Newcastle, and I still stand by, despite the fear some fans may have towards that game, I think it'll even out a lot more before the Derby. I don't think Sunderland's form will be as sustainable as perhaps the league table shows so far. I still don't think they are as good as top 4, and I think Newcastle eventually, when you get your players like Livramento, when Hall starts and when Wissa comes back into the team, I think we will shoot up that table. But we need to anyway. But yeah, take care guys anyway. I'll be back tomorrow. Let me know your opinions down below. what do you think about the topics I've talked about in my video. Wish you all the best. Appreciate your support as always. And we will see you all in the next one.